Hey guys, it's your boy Mike. Welcome again to another of my vlog, Lovewise Weekly. And this week's topic, I'm going to go about it in a little roundabout sort of a way, but I want you to stick with me, stay with me, because it's a very important topic. It has to do with marriage, and I want you guys to just listen in on what I have to say, alright?
I'm a realist, or at least I like to believe so. But realists normally tend to approach life from a non-absolute, non-idealistic perspective. By contrast, if you look at the optimist and the pessimist, which are on either side of that spectrum, the optimist takes a more positive approach towards life, while the pessimist takes a more negative approach towards life. And I know this is a very simplistic way of explaining these philosophical approaches to life, but I want you to look at the similarities with the pessimist and the optimist is that they are set on the premise that life and the world is about a set of absolute values, a set of ideal values that people work towards. So persons with this mindset tend to see things in black and white, and they focus on what ought to be, because that's what those perspectives are about. The optimist, the pessimist focuses on life, the relationship, and these things, and how they ought to be. Now, on the realist side of things, realists tend to focus on not what ought to be, but what is, what plays out in front of them. You know, the realism of life. And so, realists will adjust as they go along with regards to life. They'll adjust their sails as they see it while they navigate the rough seas of life. And really that is how they approach things such as relationship. And that's something that I'm going to talk about here a little later on. Now let's go back to the topic of the day, which is about becoming one flesh. And what does becoming one flesh means? And we know that basically this has to do with when two persons leave their parents' home, join in holy matrimony, they become one flesh. That whole oneness principle is what is supported. Now let's look at compellingtruth.com and how they further explain what is meant in 1 Corinthians 7 verse 4. And they say here quickly, beyond practical and spiritual matters, we need to realize that our flesh belongs to our spouse, and the way we treat our body needs to reflect the respect we have of our spouse. As trivial as it may sound, things like fitness, hairstyles, and tattoos should always be considered with your spouse and in mind. Falling into poor health through negligence directly affects the lifestyle of your spouse. Asking for input regarding clothes and hair shows that you care how your spouse sees you. This also applies to physical behavior. It is disrespectful to flirt, dress revealingly, or in any other way use your body and actions to infer that you are not one flesh with your spouse.
Now this is all great stuff, and I really do like it, because I do believe that this is the way marriage should be treated. Certainly from a religious and an idealistic perspective. But that has been the issue, isn't it? Because life really isn't ideal. There's nothing ideal about life. What do I mean by that? To be able to benefit from this kind of approach in a relationship, both partners will have to be ideal partners in sharing and giving alike. And we know that this has never been the case. There's never been any such thing as an ideal partner or an ideal relationship, because as human beings we are imperfect, and as such relationships will be imperfect. And we've seen where the best of relationships, even in marriage, goes south. Not because the partners never loved each other, not because they didn't try, but because there are other factors in play. So to expect a perfect relationship from two imperfect individuals is like expecting a thunderstorm in the Saharan desert.